Moikka!
Hey!
Welcome to our podcast, Mastering Finland.
I'm Jean and I'm from California.
I'm Petra and I'm from the Czech Republic.
We're here to chat about our life in Finland. Hi everybody, welcome to the podcast. This is Jean and I am here today with Dallin from Canada. So hi Dallin, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
Thanks for agreeing to come on and share your story.
It's no problem.
So you are from Canada, but you have connections to Finland. Can you explain a little bit more?
Yeah, for sure. So my great-grandparents, after the Second World War, there wasn't a lot of jobs in Finland at the time. So quite a few Finns, they actually moved to Thunder Bay in Canada. And after that, that's where my grandparents met in Ontario. And from there, I'm a quarter Finnish, but a while back, they needed more Finnish citizens to join the EU. So I was able to get a passport through my dad in that time. So that's kind of how I managed that.
So were they just looking to increase their population or?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And you came to Finland what year?
I guess the beginning of 2019.
And what brought you here?
I kind of just wanted to jumpstart my life a little bit, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And because I had the passport, I got a message in the mail saying that I had not really an obligation, but had an invitation to go to the Finnish army. And I just thought that it would be a good thing to do at the time. And I stuck around since.
Right. That's definitely new on our podcast. We haven't had anyone start their time here joining the army. So that's really interesting. Did they have to send you a formal invitation or?
Yeah, so initially what had happened is it was, I think, around this time of year in 2018 that I got a message saying, would you like to go to the army the summer of the following year?
Okay.
I wasn't super sure of it, but just because at the time I kind of wanted to go to school in Canada, so I thought maybe it might be smarter if I could go in the summer and make it a little faster. I hadn't really agreed to anything yet, but I asked if it was okay if I could go in the new year instead of the summer of 2019. And so I hear nothing for the next 3 months. And by that time, after sending emails and letters, I had just figured all right, there's nothing I can do for it. Either I go then or I don't go at all. I haven't given a decision. And then I think it was 19 or so days before I was actually supposed to be in Finland, I get an email saying,
way.
Yeah, it was December 17th or something like that. And they said, are you coming? So in a mad frantic, I apologized to my mom. I hugged my grandma, sell my car, my apartment, pack up my stuff. And yeah, I think I was in Finland 2 days before the service. And it was...
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was a mess, honestly.
But you haven't been back home since you came to Finland, have you?
Yeah, twice, thankfully. They paid for the flights. If I needed any food while traveling, they'd pay for that too.
Oh, wow. That's really nice. How did you picture your military life in Finland?
I mean, I think with the North American idea of what the military was going to be, I was definitely kind of picturing a full metal jacket, pre the bathroom scene for anyone who hasn't seen the movie, kind of that very intense physical and mental thing. But it's really not the case, I'd say, in Finland because of the conscription. I didn't get a very high rank within the army. I got what's called a kaupunkiakari, which just translates to city jaeger. And if you move past that to a higher rank called alakersantti or sub-sergeant, then their training becomes quite intense. But for the majority of the soldiers, it isn't a very physically exerting thing to do. It's more just... there's a saying within the army that we're all in a rush to wait, kind of.
We're all in a rush to wait.
A good example would be we usually, we had schedules of what we'd be doing that week, but I didn't understand them because they were all in Finnish, so that's good job, brain. But we'd be almost randomly told like 7 minutes, and then we'd have to be like sitting in our chairs with like in position ready to go in 7 minutes with everything we need, and then we would walk to wherever we'd go, and we need to be on time within the 7 minutes, but we could be waiting from like 15 minutes to an hour in whatever we're doing. So it's like you need to be like punctual. But despite the fact that you're punctual doesn't mean that anything around you will necessarily be punctual.
That makes sense. So did you know Finnish before coming? Like, did you speak Finnish at home, or had you tried to learn it before coming?
So, I mean, my dad never really learned Finnish,
Okay.
and when he was growing up, it was never really spoken in the home. I think before I got here, I tried Word Dive, which is a really good app for learning it,
Oh,
but I
okay.
maybe just didn't put in enough time to it. So like I could count to like 7 in Finnish, and like I knew very basic words, but it was nowhere where I thought my understanding was and where it actually was night and day. Like I was blown out of the water when it came to the Finnish.
So then did you just basically just immerse yourself into military life and picked up on the Finnish language that way? Because your Finnish is actually, it's good. I mean, you're able to communicate, and which you can't say that about all foreigners here. So how did you manage?
I mean, personally, like what I'll say, which may not be less romantic for some people, is that I actually learned a lot more Finnish bartending than I did working in the military. But I think within the military, it was like you just learn things that are familiar, kind
Right.
of. Like, you know that acento means attention, and leppo means like at ease, and then they like give you commands for when you're like going to eat. So you know, like kanas oikean päin is like turn right now, and because you just like hear that so much, you learn it.
Right.
But on a conversational level, I think the guys in my like bunk or tupa, they made fun of me a lot because I spent the majority of my time like trying to learn Finnish, where there was a lot of guys who could kind of pick up on it. So like I don't think I'd be an expert in saying how to learn it best, but I think as far as like will the army teach you Finnish, I can't fully say that it will, but
Right.
you just like learn what you need to, I guess.
I guess it was like a very specific vocabulary that you picked up.
I mean, I hope this doesn't come back to me, but it's funny because in my my end time there, I was a medic and I really didn't have a lot of responsibilities or things I had to do other than just waiting. And then like maybe every 3 weeks, someone would need a flu shot and I would help with that.
Oh, wow.
But I think there's like 3 occasions where I just like put on a fake Alikersanti badge, and it's like with the permission of the Alikersanti, and with my terrible Canadian accents, like speaking Finnish, like telling everybody to go like march to lunch and stuff. Yeah.
So, did you experience culture shock? I'm just trying to imagine myself in your shoes. Like, had you been in Finland before this, first of all?
No.
I mean, I'm sure there was culture shock just on not just like Finland, but maybe even in military life. What sticks out in your memory of that first initial period of your time here and in the army?
I think for a lot of Canadians and a lot of Americans, having a language barrier is something that isn't really experienced beyond the extent of maybe 3 people in the room might not understand or like have a full understanding of the conversation. But it had really been the first time that I've been in a room and everybody was speaking something that's, and like I'll be a little mean that Finnish is a weird sounding language. And so like hearing all of this being spoken around me, that blew me out of the water a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, I was very fortunate that many of them could speak English, and even that there were many people in my own situation that had either come from the US or Australia or England that like could not speak Finnish but still decided to do it anyways.
I guess you said you had the language barrier was a difficult thing, and you being the only foreigner.
Well, at least the only one who just flat out didn't speak Finnish, I think. Like, there was a couple of other guys, but they were, like, semi-fluent, I would say.
How intimidating, but over time, how did that play out? How were you able to communicate? Were you able to like form friendships and make connections?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was a little more difficult in basic training because a lot of my dialogue just consisted of asking what's happening.
Okay.
But I think, of course, there were like some really excellent guys in my basic or Bakehousey that like really helped me out a lot. But I think I was able to make become better friends with the guys that I met while being a medic, just because that was less of a constant go 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 kind of scenario.
Right. So tell us about your typical day.
So it would start at 6 a.m.
Okay.
And then we'd get all of our stuff on, and we would usually be ready, like teeth brushed, clothes on, sitting in our chair by, I want to say 6:20. And then we would stand in front of our company.
Okay.
And kind of wait to see who would march to the mess hall first. From there, we would march in like squads or yokwe to the mess hall, and then like we would eat, go back, and then it would be usually like there might be like shooting, like we would have some sort of task or activity we'd have until lunch, and then there'd be a similar deal, go back to the company, sit, walk in front, or like go in front of the company, stand in squads, march to the mess hall, eat, go back. And then we'd do another activity, same deal with the food. And then we would have a cleaning inspection daily from our Alikarasanti.
Okay.
Which usually would just end up like, even if he didn't find anything, he'd make up some bullshit and so like usually you just get checked 3 or how many times he's feeling nasty. And then from typically 6 to 9, you would get free time.
Okay.
And then from 9, you would have to have a bed inspection. And usually it was lights out by 10. Basic training, it's a lot stricter. Then in your following seasons, depending on where you go, it gets maybe a little less intense.
Okay.
But there's still like an expectation.
Yeah.
I also want to preface this by saying I was just a god-awful soldier. Like, there were so many people better than me. So I don't want to, like, make this look at me. Like, I was always late to everything you could be late for.
Yeah.
The big thing that I got used to was the open showers right next to the faucets.
Okay.
So it's like, I remember my first day, I was like, okay, just don't look to your left, don't look to your left. And I'm just like trying to brush my teeth. And there's this one guy, I don't know where the hell he's from, but he just like looked over and he was like, hey, how are you doing? And just like biggest smile you'll ever see in latherable places.
Like, what kind of small talk do you do in that kind of situation?
You just finish brushing your teeth quickly, I guess.
Just get out of there.
Yeah. There wasn't a lot of recovery from there.
So, what would you say is your proudest moment of serving in the military?
I think my proudest moment was the ceremony when I got my medic badge or Lakantmias badge, because it was like a little ceremony with all the medics, and after we get our certificate, we also get medic badge, and people kind of like look at the medic badges. It's like, whoa, that's cute, that's cool, because like not everybody gets one of the badges, so like I felt like kind of a hot shot. And I'll just also say coolest memory, the time I threw a grenade.
What?
So I was like holding it, just like not even just throwing the grenade itself, it's like being handed a grenade and asked to walk like 30 feet. It's the simplest, but there's so much adrenaline in that.
Gosh.
Yeah. And then hardest would probably just be like the Tutkinto, or like the long march. That was like the 36 hours. That was just abominable.
Wow.
I remember that like afterwards I slept for, without exaggeration, 20 hours straight. And then the day afterwards I struggled to climb stairs. Like, it was the image of like someone being like cast in cement and then walking upstairs.
Wow. Brutal.
Yeah, that was rough.
What was the military culture like?
There's not as much of a hazing thing. Like, it's a bit different because a lot of guys don't support the mandatory conscription. So the fact that they had to be there was kind of hazing enough.
Oh.
Like, there's like this idea of being called like Ghana. And so like Ghana is just like that look in someone's eyes when they've like been there for 3 months and they realize it's going to be quite a bit longer till they leave. And they just like really are like apathetic kind of. So
Uh-huh.
it does go case by case, but I think a lot of people kind of look at it as like, this is a hard thing that I just have to get through, but like, holy God, do I not want to get through it?
Oh, man. Yeah. You recently finished serving.
Yeah, just about a year ago.
Okay. Did you know that you wanted to stay in Finland long term?
Initially, when I came to Finland, and admittedly what I told a lot of my family members I'd do would be that I'd go to Finland, I'd do this hard thing, I'd come back ready to like take on life. But because of my citizenship, I found out through people that it'd be really easy for me to apply to school.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what my friends and extended family who live here explains to me is by doing this, I basically just got a full ride scholarship. So it was kind of hard for me to justify going back if I planned on going to school, because like going to school here, like, I don't know, there were admittedly some careers that I was interested in that I couldn't pursue here, but that was kind of a trade-off with being able to not only have free education, but being paid for school, which is very foreign to me.
So then you enrolled in like university, or?
Yeah, I enrolled in a University of Applied Science, or ammattikorkeo, or ammattikorkeakoulu.
Okay.
It's for a degree in business and IT.
Okay, and is it an international program? It's in English or in Finnish?
Yeah, so luckily most of the degrees in English are international programs that you can take to other countries in Europe. The stipulation is that you need to learn some level of Finnish while you are here.
And that's how you picked up and learned Finnish to this level?
I mean, like, I don't want to badmouth the institution, but just because of having already done the army and having already, like, kind of worked in very basic Finnish by the time I got there, like, the first course is basically just moi mitä kuuluu, like even mene.
Okay, very basic.
Yeah, and then the second course is slightly more difficult, so I jumped to the third course, and it was pretty good for me, although, like, I don't know, I have a very, like, spoken Finnish understanding, I guess.
I mean, that's still really good. Do you speak, like, when you go, shopping into the supermarket, or when you're out and about, do you speak in Finnish?
Or I default to English, but I will use Finnish if, like, I can see that, like, the big example of if I'm at a store and I talk to the cashier and I see her start to panic, then I switch to Finnish.
Okay.
But usually when I'm, like, speaking with people who don't prefer to, or, like, have a very good grasp on English, like 90% of Finnish people, even if they can't speak it, they can understand English very well.
Right.
So typically what I'll do is, like, if I speak English and they speak Finnish, then it works out.
Okay. Is there something you have learned to appreciate about life and the culture in Finland that you don't have in Canada?
I mean, it's like, the thing is that Canada is very similar to Finland in a lot of ways.
Okay.
Like, the landscape looks very similar. The people have a general sense of obligation to take care of each other, which I know some Finns will fight me on, but, like, I believe that's true. But I think, like, I truly believe that the democratic socialism system is a lot better than the, like, just streamlined democracy that Canada may have. Just because I see, like, how things are run here, and I feel like if you could implement them in Canada, I can see, like, a lot of problems being resolved and Canada becoming a much more independent and, like, self-sustained country. But
so Finland and Canada are pretty similar, you would say, the culture.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. What do you miss about home?
Well, like, there's really no getting around the family thing. Like, that's hard.
Yeah.
Fast food as a close second. I think it's just in general better in Canada.
Yeah, any particular food? Or
Oh, Wendy's. And I feel
okay.
like this is awful because like I haven't shut up about trying to become vegetarian, but at the same time, like a Wendy's burger just heals my soul.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
No,
yeah,
totally. I also, I mean, there's so many. I think food is also up there on the list after family, the things that I miss the most in Finland.
yeah.
So, do you see yourself living in Finland like for the long run, or you see yourself going back to Canada at some
Uh,
point?
I mean, like it's up in the air, honestly. Like
Yeah, you just kind of see how it goes.
exactly. Like I'm gonna finish my degree no matter what, and
Hmm.
then after that, like it's a degree that I can take back to Canada. But like if I feel like my adventure here isn't
Right.
done, then I'll probably stay. But like that's that's for a future me to
Yeah,
decide.
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you could give advice to other foreigners or maybe those who, are just moved to Finland, is there any advice or tips you can share with them based on what you have learned and experienced and
I mean, like the non-hallmark tip would definitely be take vitamin D tablets. Like you don't realize how darkness affects you until you're constantly sad all the time because your skin hasn't seen any sunlight.
Yeah,
But yeah, take vitamin D supplements as much as you can,
that's true. Yeah.
and
The darkness is a silent killer. It's a very gradual.
yeah, like uh, I don't know, and it's like so many things. It's your immune system. It's
Yeah,
your like mood. It's
totally.
like oh my
It
gosh.
just affects everything. And before winter starts, I'm always like, I'm aware I'm not gonna, let the darkness affect me too much, but before you know it, you're like deep down in a dark hole
I
of
know.
somehow you end up there and it's like, but I was prepared mentally, but it just hits you. It's inevitable. So
Yeah, but and like the worst part is like once it really hits you, you don't feel like actually taking the supplements because you don't care because it's like, well, I'm already like sad anyways. How are these
yeah,
gonna help? And
yeah,
it just gets
totally.
worse.
Yeah, you just kind of get comfortable. You settle into your dark little hole.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that is a good practical tip. Definitely take vitamin D. I would say probably starting in October, November. I know November is pretty miserable.
yeah. Because like, okay, I'm staying on this scent for a second, but like, it doesn't even kick in right away, which is the worst part. It's not
Hmm.
like you take it once and it's like I'm suddenly rejuvenated. It's like
Right.
it slowly starts to like help you out,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I don't know. But it's important. It's so important.
Yeah. Good one.
And then, like the hallmark tip, I'd say is that
Mhm.
like Finns may be close to Canadians, but at the same time, they're very like people already understand that they're very reserved, but they're also like once you become their friend, it's I think something I would change if I would go back in time to when I first got here
Yeah.
is I would try and make less friends and just pay more attention to the friends I already have because I think with
Mm.
Canadians, they're a little more comfortable just having like acquaintances that even if you're just like Dave from the gas station, that you just have like that one inside joke with, and then that's good enough for
Mhm.
you. With
Mhm.
Finns, it's not necessarily the same in that if they're like opening up to you,
Mhm.
it's really important that you take that as like a very genuine thing that they're doing. And
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
like
Right.
for North Americans, it may be like even weirder, but it's like important to
Mhm.
like if you see someone opening up to like keep them around because like they're
It's a big deal. Yeah.
yeah.
Before we close up, how did you make Finnish friends? Because that's actually a common question asked in Facebook groups. Foreigners have a difficult time connecting or like making friends with Finnish people.
I don't
Like, how do you even get to the point where they're opening up to you?
I don't know.
How did it happen with you?
Like I've been lucky to be into positions where like I went to the army and you kind of just like make friends by default there because you're like
Right.
forced to stay with these people for so long. And then
Yeah. Yeah.
I went to school And like I understand that like making friends in school is like an entirely different thing than like anywhere else. Like even when I wasn't going to school in Canada, I struggled to make friends. But I don't know. I like
It just happens.
yeah, or drinking.
Yeah.
Is the other one.
Okay. Right,
Like
okay.
bars and nightclubs are typically a pretty good place to meet people.
Yeah.
But I have no idea. That's a good question, actually.
Yeah. I think that'll be I'm not sure anyone really has an answer to this, and we may never get the answer, but yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing your story. This is definitely a really unique story in how you started out your life here, and yeah, so thank you.
No problem. It was a pleasure.
Thank you to our listeners, and we'll see you next week. Bye.